Greetings, Space Marines. FiOth here, and today I'm gonna try something different. If this goes well, more is to come. I will be taking you through some of our recent gameplay. This is pre-patch Reliquary with a green power fist on a non-maxed character, and from what I can remember, my peeps didn't have fully upgraded characters or weapons as well. We were playing one of the worst missions in the game when it comes to difficulty. It was hugely unbalanced before the patch, and we were not ready for it. It is a nightmare to watch, and this is why I saved it. I wanted to share with you just to see what we were dealing with before the latest patch came out. I will be narrating throughout this whole thing, and the only segments that I will be cutting off are areas where we just walked around, nothing was happening. I don't want to bore you, but as long as we're getting loot or fighting something or getting our shit shoved in, I'm gonna show you pretty much everything. So I'm playing Bulwark here, and I wasn't exactly perfectly versed with Bulwark when I started playing it. Bulwark has a very strange glitch right now where if you try to parry, it will actually perform a block sometimes. The 100% working workaround is to double tap block, so there is a parry always coming out. This was an unupgraded power fist though, and it doesn't have fencing on it, so not only was I debilitated because the inputs weren't reading as they should, I was also dealing shit damage and my blocking was, let's say, kinda iffy. It is a mission with Chaos, and before the patch, again, Chaos had hordes of Jaggers with shields, very few things could stagger them consistently, and the bigger enemies, let's say the Chaos Marines, could always and indefinitely teleport around without any restrictions. The developer stated recently, the lead developer stated that they know Chaos is not as fun to fight as the Tyranids are. And he was totally honest about it, said that at some point during development you have to just stop and look at what you've made, and you can't really have anything more to say about it. You can't take a huge step back and redo an entire enemy faction. It is what it is. You have to start making discs of the game, as industry insiders call it. You're pretty much locked in position and you have to live with your decisions, but they're not exactly happy with how this faction works. I can understand why. Chaos ultimately is a super beefy alternative to the opposition of the game. The game starts with the Tyranids. Tyranids are super fun to fight because they're mostly in melee. The small shooters are very fragile. They have no teleportation or whatever. The only thing that can really surprise you from the Nid side is the Lictor. And the Lictor is super fun to fight because it is very, very telegraphed. You can easily know where it's coming from and what it's planning to do, and you can punish it accordingly. With Chaos, you can't keep any combat lines active. They just teleport behind you, and they come in swarms. The small snipers, the Jaggers, all that shit. It was really, really bad during the period before the patch. And people, of course, are bringing in the debate about the game getting neutered because people couldn't handle it. Guys, your life is not gonna improve if you beat Radan before the patch in Elden Ring. If all you can say about yourself is that you beat a boss in a video game before it got nerfed, you're not having a very nice life. You should reconsider, touch some grass and really chill. Like, it is a really good idea to reevaluate what you hold in high regard in life. I understand that things getting nerfed to the ground to appease people who don't want to put in the time is annoying for the people who put in the time, but as it stood, Chaos was not balanced at all. It was horseshit. I think they overdid it a bit with the reduction of specific unit presence on the map. Much fewer Jaggers, much fewer corrupt riflemen, snipers. We're talking like 2/3 of their numbers were taken out of the equation, but they're gonna strike a finer balance when lethal drops, the new difficulty setting. You can bet your ass it's gonna be a good challenge. So now they're kind of prepping and evaluating what is balanced and what is enjoyable. This room that you're seeing right here in Reliquary, if you have a bad wave here as you're looking for the correct grave, you are screwed. It is pretty much, or let's say it was pretty much, impossible to survive the onslaught. You have to be on point with communication, ability usage, and team composition. Here, to add insult to injury, we are not even upgraded, as I said in the beginning. Like, this green power fist is like hitting them with a wet noodle. Doesn't do shit. Upgraded plasma pistol get the job done, but you can't always be at range, of course. It's Space Marine 2, and there will be moments later on in this video where we don't have a bullet to share amongst ourselves. We have more blood and gore on us than we have ammunition. As I stated in my video on why people fail at this game, that I will, by the way, tag at the end of this one, you cannot expect to be able to keep safe from the melee in this game. And the melee is what you have to resort to once either ammunition is depleted or you're just getting pushed, because enemies will push you and chaos will push you even more than Tyranids. Or at least they used to. Now they're much more manageable. But as you can see, they're relentless, they keep coming, we get enemy wave after enemy wave, leading to the occasional massive wave, and God, or let's say the Emperor forbid, we miss a screamer that calls in reinforcements, because then we are drowning in enemies. This part right here is very obnoxious. The issue is that it's not entirely up to you if you're gonna find what you're looking for, the power core, in one attempt or in 5. The room is open, you're exposed from all angles, these enemies attack at a distance, they deal a shitload of damage, and the double-edged sword here is that if you are damaged at range from one of these bozos and you don't have shield, you're gonna go into a lot of contested health. If you go into a lot of contested health and you have nothing to finish, let's say a takedown or a gun strike, you're pretty much screwed. There is no way to recover from the injury. You either have to keep an eye out for enemies and try to close the gap so you can punish them and get your stuff back, or you have to stay 100% safe whilst you keep searching. Another thing I don't understand about the design of this game, when you click interact to search, let's say a body like this, there is no interrupting the process. You just have to go there and do the entire thing, do the entire 5 to 10 search shenanigans like you can see in this clip, and if you get attacked during that time, unless it is a staggering attack, you are screwed. If little shooters attack you while you're searching for something, they will have a field day with you. You cannot interrupt your own action, you cannot do anything to kill them, of course, because you're just kneeling down searching the corpse, and you're gonna take a shitload of damage for no real reason whatsoever. They really need to fix this. Like, if you take damage worth 5% of your total health, you should stand up and retaliate, because as it stands, you're going to get punished for just trying to complete the objective. You can't always have eyes on every single enemy, it is impossible. And even if you could, you might get ambushed by something that was around the corner. As you can see, there is a sorcerer here, for example. As I'm trying to get shit done, it is very much possible that the little shits will swarm you after he channels them, like you see here. And you're gonna lose a ton of shield and health. And shield, as it's working now, post-patch, is very effective. It is very dependable. The little guns will hit you for a small portion of it. It is a very good buffer between what's happening around you at any given moment and what actually happens to your health after the shield has been taken down. You can pretty much manage, but as things were when we were playing this, when we were playing the pretty much vanilla version of the game, the shield went down like a layer of toilet paper after a really bad day of diarrhea. It just evaporated. And if you didn't have an alternative method of regaining, you were pretty much screwed. You had to be 100% on point. Now we're back with the power core to the pedestal, and we are waiting for the little servo to start doing the rounds. And of course, the moment the interaction is done, we start getting swarmed. It's just minores for the time being, very manageable stuff. It never ends with minores, of course, in the difficulty setting. And what you're about to watch here, down here in the crypt, is one of the most excruciating fights we've ever had to endure in this game. It was a sea of enemies. It starts pretty simple, but then, as you can see here, we start getting flanked by the teleporting marines. It's a massive enemy wave coming in, and we have enemies in the crypt, we have enemies behind us, we have enemies doing unblockable attacks, we have enemies peppering us from a distance. I understand it was manageable. As you can see here, we are managing, and it felt really good when you pulled it off, and we pulled it off super consistently. If you watch the videos I've already uploaded and the streams, I say would have like a 90% win to lose ratio, 95% on Ruthless, even on these chaos missions. But guys, let's be honest here, it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun getting swarmed left, right, not being able to do anything in most cases, other than make a tactical retreat and try to evaluate. Here I have a man down, I have a lot of contested health on me, not exactly ideal targets to take down. Here I recover, I still miss health that cannot be recovered, and now I have another man down. And it's a totally do or die situation. I don't have my banner, I'm like, I'm gonna try to get this guy, and I managed to get the guy, but if any one of these Chaos Marines decided to do an unblockable on me there, I'd be dead. I don't have a relic, the run would be void. And there are a lot of cases of people trying Ruthless, or were trying Ruthless before the patch, that they scraped by skin of their teeth, honestly. And then, to make us feel good about ourselves, would say that it was 100% skill, and we pulled it off. It wasn't. It was a lot of cases where the enemy just wasn't as aggressive for 5 seconds, and it so happened that those 5 seconds were the time when you attempted to get your allies back into the fight. These games should not be about the luck factor, because a run in Space Marine 2 can cost you 40 minutes. And you don't want to go 30 minutes into those 40 minutes and then get screwed because you had a massive wave coming from the back and the already pre-spawned wave behind the door getting sandwiched and destroyed and not having anything to say about it, really. We managed this insane thing right here, and we're continuing into the crypt. I'm trying to stagger this Space Marine down there to recover some of my contested health. He keeps shooting, he doesn't give a shit about the fire he's taking. If there's one thing that has to be done in this game, they have to make the bolter weapons feel like they're hitting more substantially. It's the damage, especially against the Tyranids. It feels like you are shooting them a lot for the amount of stagger and overall damage that you're getting as a reward. A warrior requiring more than half the clip of the heavy bolter is not an ideal analogy, especially considering how many of them you are fighting. And I know the main focus is to pull you into the melee and slice and dice them, but shouldn't it be a case of approach it as you will, find some quirky strategy that works for you, and this way you can always be successful if you are planning ahead correctly and using the correct gear and having the right allies. But as it stands, melee combat is much more rewarding in a variety of ways, and the weapons who are striking for like a kind of anti-material kind of damage, like plasma, let's say for example, the last fusil and all that, infinitely more effective than ballistics. And ballistic weapons in the Warhammer universe are pretty much the bread and butter, like the bolters are the signature weapons. They shouldn't feel like they're dealing so little damage. I'm not in the same boat as people say that these guns are useless. These are the same people who said that Assault was useless. And by the way, Assault is super buffed after this patch. Ground Pound got 30% added damage. The Power Fist charge attacks got a shitload of extra damage, which means that fully charged ground slams and on the ground attacks with the Power Fist will always bring very good results to the table, and that's what you want. You want to feel powerful. But Assault was getting a super bad rap, and I, to an extent, can understand that. You're swinging this huge ass hammer that can deal mythical amount of damage in law, and here it feels like you are hitting them with a BDSM cane in the butt cheeks. You're not getting the intended results. Jaggers 100% should have their shields blown away from them when hit by the hammer, leaving them in a stagger state, and then you can follow up with an attack and send them to Kingdom Come, because this hammer is supposed to be able to destroy armored vehicles with a swing. Little shits, little goatmen should pose no issue to it. Now we're entering the Heldrake Bridge territory. You know the drill here. There is a couple places around where you can get a Medicae. For the most part, you have to be careful of what's spawning, and you have to be careful about what the Drake's doing. The Drake is very glitchy here. Sometimes it will always fly around, and sometimes it just forgets that you're there and doesn't fly around at all. It's a double-edged sword again, because the Drake will actually indiscriminately destroy the Chaos and you. So if Chaos spawns on the bridge and not in the safe houses, the fire will just roast them. Nothing survives the Drake. One pass and everything is dead. That includes us, but we are thinking human beings whilst the AI does dumb shits, and we try to utilize this. The sad thing about this place is that it can also spawn a boss. So if you're trying to get into the houses and you have, let's say, a Terminator there or a Scarab there, and it also spawns, let's say, I don't know, I'm just thinking on top of my head, a Hellbrute. You are fighting chunky enemies that you have to get into a staggered state in order to perform a finish and recover on top of each other, whilst you cannot escape because outside it's literal hell and you're gonna die in just one passing of the Drake. You have to just somehow make do. This was ridiculous because fighting the big things was problematic. You might have had little riflemen around aiming at you with the little green lasers, throwing their little grenades, and there was really no way to recuperate. It was super problematic, and what they're trying to do, if I'm understanding this whole thing correctly, they're not exactly trying to make things easier. They already took care of the fencing part that was super forgiving. They made it a little bit more restrictive. You have to be a bit more precise. And after they take care of the fencing, and I suppose they will rebalance the balance configuration, their focus seems to be and should be the ratio of spawns to counterplay you can make in order to stay alive. So we have chaos on the bridge here. We were optimistic for a second. We were like, the Heldrake will pass, it will burn them, but that's not what happened. It spawned a Scarab and a Hellbrute on the bridge, where we're pretty much shitting our pants, thinking if the Drake comes, it's gonna destroy us, we can't really escape. Here I'm getting annoyed by this big boy, and then the other big boy comes in and starts shoving my shit in, and I can do very little. As you can see, I have zero ammunition. I don't have a single shot of plasma to my name. And now, as you can probably see again, I am attempting to block attacks. I have a weapon that cannot block, but because by default the bulwark can block, the input gets messed up. I have a tactile button controller, which means there are no membranes involved. It's just a robotic click. I click for a fraction of a millisecond and I still seem like I'm attempting a block, which was 100% code related. I know pretty much everyone who plays Bulwark is running into the same issue, and it shouldn't be like this from a game that demands so much precision. Messed up inputs can get you killed super easy, and it used to be even super easier because the game was, let's be honest, harder before the patch. So we're fighting the Hellbrute in the house, and then the Hellbrute starts following one of my comrades, takes them all the way up to the edge of the bridge here in this house, and he keeps assaulting us. And the Hellbrute is one of the most annoying of the bosses of the Terminus enemies because the plasma shots it fires have a ridiculously large AoE. I don't have any issue with the hammer strikes. They're predictable, they're telegraphed, you can see the purple haze, you know where they will damage you. But when it comes to the plasma shots, man, it's just bullshit. I've had this bozo hit me through walls. I don't think that shooting through walls was the intended way for this asshole to damage the team. Our idea here initially was just screw it, get out of here, but it isn't really working because Chaos Marines can teleport. And this boss, although it looks pretty big, oh my god, how many times did I punch this dude? My god. Anyway, although the guy seems pretty big, he can follow you into a surprisingly large variety of areas. He will follow you and he will kick your ass. And now we're just doing the finisher, and you feel like a false sense of safety when doing the finisher. It's like, he can't really kill me during the finisher. Well, he can't kill you during the finisher, but he can kill you the moment you're out of the finisher. He caused 40% of my health to go down the moment I finished the finisher. I couldn't do shit. Downed one of my allies and then tried to take me out, and I had to go get them, and we don't have any ammo and the game doesn't give us any ammo. It is a clusterfuck. I'm pretty sure this is not the intended effect the devs were going for. Here you'll see us smug this guy around for a few moments. I don't really want to cut the footage because I don't want to create any controversy, the sense that, oh, you actually wiped and this is a different replay. Or like, you know, people is sad lives, man. People like to nitpick and go toxic for no reason whatsoever. But anyway, I'm gonna just leave it here. We're only in the melee, we don't have ammo, we don't have an ammo box, we don't have any relics, we're hanging by a thread, but we have to take it down. And here you'll see the finisher, you'll see that I'm getting an orange token. Case in point, it is actually Ruthless, because I've had people in the past call me out in my vid saying, oh man, see, he wasn't playing on this or that difficulty setting, he's lying. And I'm like, you absolute tool, if I wasn't playing on this difficulty setting, and then proceed to just explain to them why they're kind of stupid, and that is what's included in the vid is exactly what was in the title. This segment of the bridge can be even worse. I need to lead the charge here, because if I don't, my gunner can't shoot. At some point, our gunner here found a bit of ammo. Now the Heldrake is back. It was reminded that it had a job to do and cleared a few Jaguars. It's not like it was a game changer, and it is always super dangerous to go through the bridge unless you have ideal timing. And here I fell because there was no actual graphical indication of fire. There was no texture, there was no animation, but fire was still there, kinda camouflaged, and I got my ass kicked. The time it took my ally to pick me up so I could cross and wouldn't die there like a bitch, the Drake did another swoop and just finished me off, and this sucked immensely. This is pretty much the second checkpoint. The game deemed it a good idea at this point to at last provide some ammo, maybe a Medicae. Using the Medicae at this point is a kinda risky proposition, because if I don't use it and I get peppered with ranged fire, I can go down in a couple of seconds. If I use it and I don't utilize it correctly, it's just not making any sense to use it at all. What I need to do here as a bulwark is utilize my talent that restores my constant health when I use the standard, get 100%, and then just use a health pack, not to heal health, but to heal the wound, and that is exactly what I am going for. The safest way to do this without messing it up is communicate to your friends what we're about to do, and then go for a finisher on a big unit, because yes, you can get this effect from a gunstrike kill, you can get this effect from a blue indicator special counter that you see here performed on this Jagger, but the windows of opportunity are minuscule. It is very hard to time it correctly in the chaos, because now we're watching this and we are talking about it, we are discussing it, we're analyzing it. When you're in the moment and you have shit spawning everywhere and you're about to get destroyed and 35 people are watching the stream and all that, it is not exactly the same kind of proposition, you know? It is much more stressful. Here I recover some of my contested health with a gunstrike, and you don't want to wipe. You want to pull it off, you want to complete the challenge, and you're going to make mistakes due to the fact that it's just so much crap, man. Like, when I was reading the patch notes for the latest patch, I was like, they erased 60% of the trash spawns, or changed them to something that's trashier so it's more manageable, so it doesn't feel like nonsense. And then I put a poll on the stream, and the winning choice was like, now the game makes sense. Because for many people it didn't make sense, and that is what is discouraging a lot of people from getting into this game. They watch the gameplay on Ruthless, because if you want to stream this, you're going to stream the highest difficulty setting to provide a good show. They were watching this gameplay, I'm like, dude, there's no way I'm playing this. Like, this is not feasible for the average player. It is, if you understand what you're doing, it was, but it shouldn't be this punishing, if you know what I mean. Here we just dragged our asses through the puzzle explanation, pretty self-explanatory. Next corridor, lo and behold, it was filled with enemies. Sometimes here you might not get anything at all, it might be smooth sailing, but this run, dude, was cursed. Like, everything that could go wrong went wrong. Like, I understand that to an extent this is on us. Like, why are you going into that hellhole without upgrades? Why are you going into Ruthless with a green weapon? But after doing stuff for 1,000 times, here you could see the green power fist, by the way. If you pause it, you can see that my loadout is the green power fist. You want to mix it up, you want to keep it interesting, you're going to, put some restrictions on yourself and on the team just to make sure it doesn't become super predictable to watch, because round after round after round, it eventually becomes predictable. People expect that you will make it. And if people always expect you to make it, there's no suspense and the show suffers. I can't stand the show to suffer, so here we are. Okay, the Heldrake phase. Now, people whine a lot about the Heldrake phase. I think the Heldrake phase was always fine. My issue with the Heldrake phase is that the only big target, recover some contested health, is the Heldrake. When the Heldrake is immune, it does not take damage. So if you're caught in the open and you get damaged, there is no way to recover said health. Here we made the mistake at the beginning of just dropping. The Heldrake used to make a swoop as soon as you detected it, and if you dropped then, you were defenseless, you get roasted. They fixed this, so the Heldrake starts being aggressive after you have landed and you can move around. Very good quality of life change, because it was free damage for it, and it was damage that would wipe the team. We're not talking like a segment of your shield. I don't have much to say about this phase. It's the riddle, pretty self-explanatory. I hope, because I don't play with randoms, I play with my squad every single time, that by now people understand how this is done, because man, the first days of the endless grind where I would just sit down to drink a cup of coffee and try to get a couple of games done so I would get some XP for my weapons, where the peeps were at work or doing something else, and having a guy just press random buttons. It reminds me of that story with, I don't know, the third pounder burger failing in the US because people thought the quarter pounder was bigger because 4 is a bigger number than 3. Like, you can't wrap your head around why people would fail to replicate a puzzle where you have huge ass icons around the boss flashing, and then they just go and press whatever the F they feel like. I don't want to cut the footage because we're ultimately fighting for our lives here, and we have an assault and a bulwark and just the gunner to deal damage. When Fred, my friend playing the gunner, was tied down with enemies and he couldn't deal damage to the boss, our damage on the boss was shit. Like, we had to do a crap load of rotations here in order to take care of the boss, and as you can see here, for me, failing spectacularly in that regard. If timing is off by any metric in this encounter, you are getting screwed. I used my banner there just to survive a couple more seconds, and I didn't have anything to grab or finish or gun strike or whatever to recover contested health. I got a chunky ass segment of contested health and I couldn't really do anything with it. Now our focus here shifted as we were running through the mission, and we're like, dude, we have to make sure Fred can shoot the boss when we get the sigils. That I went down here because I didn't expect it to spew fire, and this is another example of what I was talking about earlier. If you are tied to a specific action like pressing a button or interact with something searchable, and that is the point where an attack happens, you're dead. You're pretty much pooped. That applies to the enemies in case of the Heldrake, but let's say this marine down there, the Heldrake spewed fire. It wasn't the segment of the map that the enemy was, and he didn't finish him off. Someone had to take a shot, take the red enemy out of range, so no shields could be gained because no execution could be performed. This takes a while. I think I'm just gonna speed it up, double the speed, so it doesn't become boring. And to be honest with you guys, just dragging my cursor to the right of this recording to cut it and trim it and speed it up. Oh my god, look, this took an eternity to pull off here. Our damage just sucked donkey balls. For future reference, let me know if you'd like to see every little bit of this, because some people enjoy the show, but we're living in the age of goldfish attention span and I don't want to alienate anyone, so let me know if you want to see everything just as is. Nothing would be abridged. I will take it under consideration. With this, the Heldrake goes down, and we are pretty much ready to reap the spoils of our effort. We get the XP, we get some upgrades, and we finally made it. One of the most harrowing runs I've ever had. So, little talk before you go, guys. Let me know if you enjoyed this, if this looks interesting, if you'd rather watch more builds, if you'd rather watch more gameplay, if you'd rather watch more discussions about the game. I don't make clickbaity content, I'm not an asshole, I'm not gonna sell my soul to the devil for views, so I want you to tell me what kind of content you are enjoying so I can bring more to the table. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like, hit the notification bell. If you enjoy the work, please consider getting a Patreon membership, direct PayPal, YouTube membership, Twitch subscription. Every little bit helps to keep the lights on, keep providing the content. Stay safe, and until next time, be well, stay frosty, and always strive for perfection. Cheers!